You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the Meta. The Meta controls everything. The Meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
We're live! Yay! It's live! It worked! I didn't break anything either. Although Mittens is using jazz hands as Mittens always does.
I never do this. Never. This is the first time ever that I've done jazz hands. Philly is sort of waving in a half-hearted way and has interesting, like, I'm not sure whether you're trying to do the chroma key behind him or whatever.
No, I wasn't. That's the thing. I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that.
It just like looks like a weird like ghosting concept behind Billy. Okay, excellent. So we have a pretty good show today, I hope. We have Billy from Test Alliance. We have Asher Elias, the 24th best FC in the Imperium, who was recently demoted.
Asher Alliance.
Asher Alliance, after recently demoted to 24th after his tragic loss of a Jackdaw class internet spaceship, and it's a shame. It is pretty terrible. Asher Alliance. We should actually have an alt alliance that we use for sob fuckery and call it the Asher Alliance. All right. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting show today. We have a bunch of shit has exploded in EVE over the last, really just this last week. Everything that some people have been waiting for some time is a GigX being GigX and Test throwing up their hands. Or I actually have no idea what the current going narrative is as to. I saw in the Fireside Chat I was giving earlier today, somebody asked me a question about Villy was being accused of being a spin master and whether Villy borrowed my spin master. Was it a 9,000 or a 5,000? And I actually don't even know what the official line from Test is. So I guess we're going to be talking about this, but I might screw this up. What was that, Villy?
It's been claimed I learned from the best many years ago.
Aw, thank you.
But yeah, we're going to talk about all that. That's going to be great. Oh, I'm excited.
So yeah, what are we going over today? We have the Alliance tournament ended. There was the war in the north. The Imperium has undeployed. There is a war in the south or the east, or call it what you will, with this whole CO2 and Tri and FCON shit show. We have a few other random bits of drama here and there. We're going to try to cover it all.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of talking. For like the first big chunk of the show, it's going to be nothing but war stuff. Because I get to make fun of people because I wasn't there for a good chunk of what we're going to talk about. So before we jump into it, we have 5 subscriptions. Iceburn 33 months, Ron Waffle with 34, Hildefer with 30. So those are all our resubscribes. Thank you, sirs. And Too Damn Fresh and Evilos with Twitch Prime subscriptions.
Badass.
Yay.
Thank you, guys.
So yeah, we had 51 resubscribes last month, by the way. That was really awesome. I'm happy. Oh, there's another one. Nyquist. Thank you. 16 months.
Awesome.
All right, so let me see where my button went. Top story! Yay.
There we go. Excellent. I like this button.
So just as I hit the top story button, we had a whole bunch of resubscribes come in. Let's see.
Holy
Arda
shit.
Wade,
That's
6 months.
nuts.
Raylios, 16 months. Thinking of Spring, 28 months. Rockburn just subscribed, and then we also had Nyquist, 16 months.
Raylios Immerus, I think it was.
It's like 5 more instantly. Oh, so good.
Wow, there was a huge pile of multi-dollars for the multi-dollar media empire.
Yeah,
excellent. Thank
so
you,
the
guys.
first thing I want to jump into, because I was out with family. I had my best friend was in town all last week, and I had just stepped out of the house like 5 minutes before this happened. And I heard Dear Leader himself was leading the charge on the biggest fight in the North. Can you talk about this, Vince? What the fuck happened while I was gone?
Well, I wasn't leading it. I did actually get to undock the Matani and get on a shitload of fax kills, which was pretty cool. And then somehow, I have no idea how I survived that fight. It was a suicide drop. We were working with Snuff, and we were gunning for Killabee's Vanquisher. And we made a mistake in that we dropped They did take the bait outside of range of Imteco. They did drop on us when they were within range of Imteco, so they were able to constantly resupply, they being PL and NC Dot. Mainly PL. We vaporized 86 force auxiliaries, but we lost like 165 dreadnoughts. We told our guys that we were going to go up there and make a play for this, and we did, and we lost. We took the shot, but well, it was a lot of fun though. I mean, I haven't had a chance to actually get stuck in a proper dread fight in a while, and the weird thing was I sinoed in on the Mittani, fully expecting to die in this shit fit rev, and I was able to go through my siege cycle, go siege red, and Sino out. I have no idea. I came in at a slightly different Sino from everybody else, and for some reason, maybe they just thought that I was hell tanked, or maybe they just didn't notice. I'm shocked, but
I just think they ignored you. From what I heard from people talking about it after the fact, they were just like, yeah, that can't really be Mittens. Like, I had a Phoenix ready to go, and I didn't even get to use it. Like I said, my friend flew in last week on Monday, flew out Monday, so it was like, fuck. But Asher, like, what was the plan? Like, how did it, like, play out? Did, like, he drop his Vanquisher on something that was baity and you guys dropped on him, or did he just make a mistake? Like, what started it? What was the catalyst of that fight?
I wasn't actually the one, like, setting it up. I just kind of showed up, but I think what it was is that Bastion was out shooting some Pocos with some carriers, and he dropped on them and DD'd the carriers, and they didn't die. But I think what happened was, like, from that time to the time we got Sinos lit, it was like 3 minutes. It took too long. If we got them up quicker, I think we would at least had a relative shot at it, but we just took too long to get the Sinos up, was I think what happened.
Yeah, there was a slip up there. It was always going to be a high risk, high reward play because it was in direct range of Imteco. But I don't know. Somebody was saying that I wasn't sieged, which is interesting. I'm not sure whether that was a serious comment from one of these guys here in chat, but I did go through one full siege cycle.
I think what they did is they looked at your damage and it was lower than some other people, but I saw the rev, it was shit fit, and you were further away.
So there's a story with this rev.
Tell me about this rev. I want to hear this.
I wanted to get to Hakonnen with Mittens, but most of the time when we have 5 fleets on a grid, like one of the reasons I very rarely end up in a fleet fight is. And Villy has been there, so he knows what this is like. Is normally when I'm there, I'm bouncing around between fleets, making sure that the fleet commanders aren't trying to kill each other or having slap fights or just sorting things out and doing intra-fleet coord, which is something that we have to do in the Imperium because we can have like 5 or 6 fleets simultaneously. So the dread that I had was one that was from our old, I think it was our old Saranen cache, and it didn't even have, it was fit T1 from before they added the capital changes and added high slots, so it didn't even have a NOS or Newt. So like this is just one of the most like garbage T1 old cap cache things, and Jay like handed it to me, and so I like bounced it through one of those fucking stupid Care for Kids citadels to get it to Hakonnen, and that's how I got Mittens to Hakonnen. It was like doing some stuff there with my observer Proteus during some of those fights. But no, I was siege. It was just a garbage T1 rev from Nowheresville.
What that fight reminds me of, it's like if you can imagine, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Patriot, where he's like, I expect you to fire 2 shots, and they say a lot can happen in 2 shots on a field with red coats. So it's like, I expect you to siege once, get that 1 siege cycle, and get the fuck out. And everybody, it was surprising because we had 200 plus dreads. Only 165 died, which a lot of people might say only 165. That's not that expensive of a loss. I think a loss per dread is $1 billion, roughly. When you, because
I mean, it depends on whether they were insured or not. Right, I don't really want to. I don't like to say, look, we took a shot, we missed, we lost. I don't want to be like, oh, it wasn't such a big deal. It was important for us to use them. We lost them. If we had won, it would be a great victory and everybody would be happy. But dreads are, relatively speaking, if they're insured, not as expensive as obviously throwing around capitals, but they're more expensive to lose than faxes. So we took a shot, we missed, whatever shit happens.
I like to see like dreads when you see a lot of dreads die. This happened to Try recently. This has been going on in the south with the Brave fights that were going on a couple months back. Dreads seem to be thrown a lot. Like, Billy, do you see dreads as like the new battleship in terms of like everyone can just drop 100 and just see what happens, especially when there's no supers involved?
Well, there's no supers involved, sure, but otherwise they're not exactly as replaceable as people like to think they are. It takes a significant amount of time to build them, and it takes a significant amount of time to move them to proper locations. And the ability to just throw away dreads is often, how do I put this, overstated, I guess.
Yeah.
Philly, you need to map your push to talk off your shift key.
Yeah, no, I just noticed that one.
So, Goons have left the north. I think we started moving home Monday. Like I said, this is the last day my friend was here, so I wasn't really into it. Was that a mission accomplished, or was it like run home between your tails, between your legs? Like how'd that look?
Well, we had sorry, but people are saying Billy's really quiet.
Yeah, I'll fix it. Don't worry.
All right, cool.
Yeah, well, we ran home with our tail between our legs. We saw that Panic Horde was deploying to Delve, and within an hour after Goblins had posted that Panic Horde was coming to Delve, we just had to withdraw the entire Imperium instantly.
Amazingly fast decision making too, by the way. Like I mean, we made a decision in an hour. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround time. We were that scared. I mean,
don't be that rude.
Oh
Goblins thinks he won. Damn it! Come on.
I mean, the deployment was when Test was leaving to leave Obi to go to wherever you guys went to. It was obvious that we had to withdraw. I mean, all of the enemy had collapsed to one front, and there was nothing to do but to leave. So we started pulling up stakes, and then we told all of our mid-layer people to start moving stuff out, and we did. So that's basically that.
Yeah, it felt like with Initiative finishing so quickly, everyone's like, oh, we could just take that back later, so they didn't really fight with Initiative. And then with the Pro God Legend pulling out after 2 weeks. Exactly 2 weeks, by the way. Same thing he did in Delve, when he came to Delve right after the big war.
I think they were there. No, they were there longer than 2 weeks.
Well, I'm talking about, like, from the moment he landed in MTO and until he got to Ob was 2 weeks. Like, he just lasted 2 weeks in his front.
Yeah, it was just the thing where we were hoping Test. I mean, like, we didn't have like a plan or anything, so it was just like a hope that we would hope Test would stay further away, and like they could have pulled the GOTG away from it, but they came to OB, and then Guardians deployed next like 2 jumps from us at that point. So it was just everyone was there. And that no one put up a fight for Syndicate, which we kind of thought, we're like, oh yeah, they'll probably fight for this, and they didn't. So it was like that was a surprise to us. I mean, I know sometimes we like to spin it like, oh, our planning's perfect, but no, we thought they would fight for Syndicate, and they didn't.
Yeah, the fact this is like there's 2 things to this that made me realize that shit was going to go south for us was when Test, I think it was Pro God, made the announcement that Test had some kind of deal. Billy wasn't. He said he wasn't active during this, but maybe you can comment on this. He said he had a deal with XIX, where they were blue to XIX to get where they were going, as long as they didn't poke people solve, like try to take people solve, is what Pro God worded it. And then when they started pulling up the Keep Star and Syndicates, like, yeah, we're leaving, bye. That was just like, okay.
I mean, Billy, you're the test guy. Like, can you tell us sort of what happened here? Sorry, I dropped something. You're literally not saying anything.
Yeah, I switched my key off the shift so it wouldn't sticky key, okay? Like,
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
I heard that earlier.
Okay, so the question is regarding Pro God's choice to move us from MTO to OB or from OB home?
Both, really, both. Like, what happened?
Yeah, let's hear your
version.
Okay,
well, our choice to go from MTO to OB was pretty much predicated on your choice to come up north without telling us, despite, I think, Pro God, saying, what are you guys doing at one point, and not telling him anything. So when you guys randomly came out of nowhere coming up north like a freight train, our generous hosts in XDeath at the time were like, what the fuck is going on? And that pretty much created a situation where they're like, you're staging in our space. Are you invading us with goons? And nobody knew what the fuck was going on. And there was a little bit of like, could you not do this? And that kind of necessitated perhaps our movement from MTO to OB. It was definitely not an ideal situation where communication was fluid and so on and so forth. Our choices at the time were to move from MTO to like OB or that Geminate system, FDZ, is it? I can't remember off the top of my head. Like, we didn't have a ton of choices because the jump ranges are horrible, and Guardians and PL were blocking most of the venal movement options pretty heavily. So, it was pretty much Ob. And then from Ob home was like, well, for some reason, we're now within one jump range of Goon staging, and we have every PL and NC and Northern Super in the game within direct jump range, which is not a good facilitator of tactical maneuver options. So perhaps this is a waste of time. And, we took back TVN and we're like, people get your shit out, we're going home, mission accomplished. Whether or not we, were, how do I put this? We weren't going to accomplish much more that really mattered, I guess you could say. And, it's kind of, making the right call at the right time based on the situation available, I guess.
Well, I think that's a good segue, which is having asked you for what your take on things were. Thank you for that. I have seen on Reddit and all this with the situation that's happening with CO2 that people have accused you of spinning. And I'm curious, what exactly is it that people are accusing you of spinning as regards to CO2? Like, what is your spin cycle regarding what's happening in the East, if anything?
Don't even know. Apparently, I made a comment in the CO2 reset thread where I said the Tri were long-standing enemies, and apparently that was too much. We're apparently like neutral frenemies, something, whatever, because at that one time in the Cash War, we took their help. So, we're definitely not enemies of that one got pretty. That comment got pretty apparently spinny. The fact that CO2 has issues working with others was apparently spun a bit.
I mean, who is saying that you're spinning? Is it people in CO2? Is it PL people? Like who? Billy, who are you saying this?
Try hit like a full Reddit CTA or something going on, because Test, who was supposed to be like good at Reddit, we got like fucking rolled. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was always. So I guess Garst is the CEO.
Like, here's the funny thing: I didn't make this fucking decision. I was just part of the team making it. I was like, I just want the fucking Reddit karma, and then it was like, I'm the fucking man who made all decisions. It's like, fuck traitorous, diplomatic, evil person. I was like, holy fuck. I'm a scumbag now and the scum of the earth. It's like, holy fuck.
I think that, welcome to my world. Like, you can say things and you say them as they are, right, in your world. And people who don't want to believe that or they just don't like you will say that you're spinning. Like, people will say that I'm spinning all the time. I just spit straight truth as I see it. Yeah. And our enemies don't like it. They're like, you're spinning about this, you're spinning about that. And, I mean... whatever it is that they want to hear, they're not getting it, and thus anything that they don't want to hear is spin. I think that it's going to be interesting if Tri and CO2 and like Tri and CO2 are going to be bestest friends or something or other. I mean, we've been saying this for a long time, and when they betrayed us, being a bunch of traitorous pieces of shit who deserve nothing but scorn and contempt, and accused us of mistreating them, since they violated everything that we hold dear, we released all of the diplomatic logs through the history of our relationship with CO2. So anyone who is on either side of this Test CO2 conflict can check the record of all of GigX's and Friends' interactions during the CFC era before they betrayed the Imperium. They have always been lying, self-serving, pathetic, disgusting pieces of shit who will sell out anyone at the first sign of trouble. And it's interesting to see, and I've been waiting for this for a long time. I expected that, when our enemies embraced GigX and were like, oh, well, he betrayed the Imperium, he must be a great guy. I'm like, okay, awesome. It's like when traitors leave Goonswarm and join a hostile organization. It's like, okay, have fun over there with these dudes. And it's just curious to see people who once embraced CO2 and defend them, finding out that, no, really, the Imperium was right the entire time. GigX really is actually just a traitorous piece of shit. There's evidence that we have of this. Now I'm seeing logs that are being leaked of GigX flipping out at people diplomatically on this whole Test thing. I mean, he is what he is.
Yeah, the best thing I think from this is what's coming out of Tri. Tri is well known for blue not blue situations where they claim to be not blue to someone and they were just there to third party and fight and help until you call them out on it. And then it's a shitstorm of, well, we were your friends, we helped you, and how dare you say we didn't? And that happens so frequently.
He's always on Reddit talking about how Tri fights for the small guy, but he's always front running. He's always on the side of the winner, like with the biggest side. Oh, it's so frustrating to me.
So that's been a running theme for Tri for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months now, where they just pick the biggest side to say that they were part of that group when that side wins, and then if you call them out on their hypocrisy, they tend to get really like spurgy and angry, and it's quite hilarious to watch. And then on top of that, you have him working with CO2, so it's like a perfect match of idiocracy. You have GigX, and Garst, and Captain Patrick Archer on one side. And it's going to be such a glorious match to watch.
We had Captain Patrick Archer as a guest on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was a pretty legit dude. Historically in EVE, Goonswarm has had very little to do with Tri. Like, we've never really fought a major war that I can remember against Tri. They're always usually on the other side of the galaxy. We've rarely come into serious conflict with them, so I have no strong opinion.
Mark 7 lived the next 70. Remember when...
there are so many different types of triumvirate that they like, but like they.
It's important to remember.
What were you saying, Billy?
It's important to remember. Tri has gone through some pretty different iterations, right? You got like the true old school Tri back when they were like pure blind. I remember fighting them with like mostly harmless. Like that's almost a decade ago now. And then you had the Super Twinkie phase in Tribute, I think, and now you've kind of got like the new generation of Tri. And, the new generation of Tri has never really picked a side in anything. They've been kind of sitting with Vanguard in the Southeast for the better part of, I don't know, 3 years? And, they've always been kind of that third party that, just shows up in Tengus or some random shit to shoot you. And, they've been part of the blue donut that they are so against.
Blue trolls. That's our new word for it. Thank you, Quarrens. They're blue troll.
Yeah.
Tri are like they're like the ultimate Golden State Warriors, Chelsea, Barca fans. Like they're always on the side of the winning side, like, or whatever they think is going to be the winning side. And I think they've done it again. I'm not making any predictions on the outcome of this war, but I think that's what they think is going to happen.
Well, and that's the thing. I think in Tri's situation, now that the war in the North is over, I think Tri is going to lean heavily on their old friends NC Dot, because you have to remember when NC Dot deployed the Curse to help PL fight Brave and that little mini war that was going on down there, Tri deployed north to hit Guardians of the Galaxy and to keep the moons and Venal in NC Dot hands. A lot of people forget about that. Now, Tri said it was all for the good fights, but through talking to various people, that was basically their job, was to sit up there and make sure none of those moons exchanged hands while NC was gone. And then Tri eventually came home when NC was done. So I think the relationship with Tri and NC might be interesting to see if NC comes down to help. But what even more interesting is to see where PL falls, because I believe it was X-Death say that they could easily just call on PL and NC to help them out. And if I'll be honest, if PL and NC Dot joins the XIX side, CO2's dead. Like, I don't see them living very long.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is...
I want to know. I want to know if this is a war. Are we already in a war? Like, what is it? What do you say?
Are we in a war?
Yeah,
there's
are
a
you
war
guys
going on
just-
between FCON, XX, DRF, Tri, and CO2 to a degree. Test is not formally involved in that war as of yet.
Okay.
But it is a pretty strong likelihood we will be involved with that war to assist our long-term friends against our long-term enemies. Long-term, I don't know. I wouldn't call FCON long-term friends, but
I was about to ask.
I was going to ask, are you helping
basically.
CO2 against FCON? Is that where this is going?
We'll see how that goes. Certainly, will help them against Tri.
Yeah.
At the very, very
So
Well, I mean, I can see that some of impasse is reinforced. I mean, is there? I haven't been paying attention to this. Is there like active combat operations in and around impasse for CO2 territory? Or is that just harassment shit so far?
Well, CO2's lost the better part, I would say 70% of their renter space in Faith of Ballas that they were trying to increase to solar. And there's been Entosis attacks against Impasse, but I think it's mostly like troll Entosis level stuff. As far as, CO2 space, I know AFCON has probably lost 1 or 2 soft timers. I don't think they've lost anything significant that I'm aware of. Most of the stuff is in there's a Fortizar and Final Reinforced timer that I'm aware of. That's it.
Impasse is mostly. I mean, where is CO2 deployed right now? Do you know offhand?
I'm pretty sure they're still in 68 FT.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, just looking at this in terms of their vulnerability timers, it's mostly like early Euro vulns. I mean, hey, if there's any board Fremen in the Imperium, I am going to make an executive decision and extend. I mean, we're not deploying the Imperium, but fuck CO2. So we have a bounty program that we introduced for people who like to just do harassment hacking. Again, this is the kind of stuff that we can't guarantee is going to result in any follow-up from anyone, but fuck CO2. And let me see how bad these ADMs are. So we know, a lot of these are really low ADMs.
Yeah, they've started to go down as this fight's been going.
If there are Fremen or people who want to head out to Impasse with Sob hackers and do stuff, we will extend, as of now, the bounty program for causing soft timers now applies to CO2 Sob and Catch.
See, look at that, the meta show. The fucking meta show.
I just, the winds of my whims have changed. The winds of my whims have changed. I was looking at this map and I'm like,
I'm not involved with this fucking at all, okay?
I was just looking at this Dotland map, and I'm like, oh, hey, some of this is reinforced. And Villy's like, well, they're doing all this stuff in Faith Abylis and fighting over there. And I'm like, let them eat Fozzie Saw.
If you look at the screen right now, this is unironically Mittens after he signs his executive order.
I have to actually send this broadcast to... let's see. Fremen Sov bounty now applies to Impasse and CO2 Sov. And then I'm going to dig up the thread. All right, you guys talk about this while I
all right, so
send this back.
I just like some things in chat.
On Reddit tomorrow where it's like, Billy makes deal with Mittani to fucking suggest attacking CO2.
Already done that.
Next thing you know, we fucking paid for this shit or something.
Billy, I want to ask you a question. I want to just I'm gonna phrase this delicately because it's not. I don't want it to be like a gotcha or anything like that because it really isn't. But when you guys started working with CO2, were you concerned about let's say the nature of the allegations against Gigax? Was that a concern down the road? Did something you discussed about say, hey, we have a concern that these guys are capricious? Let's call it that.
Yeah, actually, if you look back at, I think I made a Reddit post, I don't know when it happened, where I was like, this is pretty fucking bad. Like, you generally don't, reset people 30 minutes after they show up to defend your shit. Especially when, you've been allies for years. And I was generally not a fan of CO2 at all at that time. Our working with CO2 was entirely based upon geographical convenience for the most part, where we knew that if Test and CO2 were not blue, we would inevitably end up fucking trying to kill each other because CO2, and I shouldn't say CO2, Test is some of the greatest autists in the game, and if they feel the need to Entosis one stop structure, they're not going to be able to stop. So it created that situation where we either had to be blue, or we were going to be a permanent state of war with them. And, the geographical threats in the area just kind of necessitated that situation. And, after, 6 months or a year of being blue to someone, Eve creates a short memory due to the geographical necessity, I guess you could say, or tactical necessity.
Well, so you say geographical necessity, but you're still, next to them. What is that going to mean long-term for you guys?
I think the better question might be is what is that going to mean for them?
Oh, damn.
But,
wow.
So that's an interesting point because, right after...
before this happened, we talked to every single member of the Legacy Coalition, Brave, Requiem, Drunwalkers, etc. Nobody likes fucking CO2, okay? Everybody was like,
Spin! I thought everybody
Spin.
loved CO2 and they were wonderful for being backstabbing traitors.
They're impossible to fucking deal with. They never showed up to defend fucking. Well, I shouldn't say they never defend. They showed up to
Shocking!
help some people.
Shocking! It's just amazing that all the rest of the galaxy gets to find out all these things that we've known about
I've been
Gigex.
properly baited.
Mittens, your broadcast, you forgot to send it.
I was writing a post and now I'm sending the ping because I wanted this.
I
I want
see.
to refine the suffering because I don't want to have a bounty for just TCUs because CO2 could ignore that. So I'm extending the bounty for Fremen to hack Impasse just if they feel like it, but only for the iHubs because that will force CO2 to respond. They can't ignore it, and it's just extra shitty for every reason. I have no idea whether people will do this or not. I mean, they might just go like, oh, there's this bounty, and like 1 or 2 people do it, and they get bored or leave, but you never know.
It stopped all over Billy's little statement there. I really wanted to hear what he was saying.
Way to go, Mittens! Anyways, go ahead. Billy, go ahead. Sorry, wrong name. I'm dyslexic, sorry.
What? Go ahead about what?
What you were just saying.
He was talking about how Gigex is hard to work with.
He was edging us on about CO2 and Mittens just had to have an orgasm all over the screen. I needed 2 more minutes. I needed 2 more Mittens minutes.
It's just like this last deployment.
No. Oh, shit! Why? So you can use 200 more battleships to Titan 0?
I was making a joke about us getting our strategic objectives
that's not
quickly.
fair. You lost those fucking battleships to fucking wingspan bombers first, okay?
Yeah, I wasn't making an Asher joke. I was making a strategic objective.
Oh, see, I was
joke,
making an Asher joke. Sorry.
All right. So anyway,
but
why
no.
is CO2 hard to work with, Billy? You were saying
Yeah.
before I interrupted you to be smug.
Why is CO2 hard to work with? They don't keep to their deals would probably be the defining component of that. But they choose. No, like, listen. When we moved down to the south, I made agreements that CO2 promptly chose to shit all over and say no, despite the fact no one would diplomatically deal with them, so they couldn't make agreements. Which is why, there was CO2 in Faith of Balls instead of drone walkers, because they decided to change that deal without asking anyone or telling anyone, despite, the deal being made and them agreeing to it at one point. But, dealing with CO2 is probably a problem most of the time just because they don't communicate properly. That is the core issue. You try to work with them and they just like why couldn't they just think to be like, maybe we should talk to Test about working with Triumvirate? That might be a good thing.
Yeah.
Did you even attempt to learn Serbian, Billy?
See, this reminds me a lot. To add to that, this reminds me. I feel like alliances that have a kind of a structure like FCON has, CO2 have, where they just like lead by democracy, but yet don't let your diplos do any work. Like FCON can't. Like their diplomats are basically the alliance recruiters, right? They can't make diplomatic decisions for the alliance. Oh fuck! Hey, look, Captain Patrick Archer's in chat. He says, "You nerd, Piggle told Gigex to talk to me." Lol. Someone's in chat. Wait, this is usually like when Billy's in chat and someone else is on here. This is great. But no, I have a question though. So there was a
No, as far as that, I'm aware that Gigex has said that PGL told him to do that, and I'm also aware that PGL said he didn't tell Gigex to do that. So that's entirely a situation between them and whatever. But there's a line you kind of cross where it's like, yeah, you can work with someone to take space a little here, but then going into an all-out war with half the galaxy without talking, maybe there's like, let's theorize and say Progat did say that. Then okay, maybe another conversation might want to happen. Just one more conversation. If you're planning on creating a war or getting us into a war with half the galaxy, maybe.
I mean, this is like all of these dialogues about GigX. Maybe he's a good guy, maybe he's a bad guy, maybe he's going to change, maybe he's going to do this. It's the kind of thing like when it's like abusive relationship talk. Like maybe he's going to change, maybe he'll be different. Well, you didn't talk to him. You didn't talk to him in the right way. And if you talk to him in the right way and you communicate appropriately, he's not going to be a traitorous piece of shit. You just didn't use the right words and accommodate his unique traitorous, backstabbing piece of shitness. So the fact that the rest of the galaxy is now having to talk about the right way to talk to GigX and whether GigX is actually an okay job is awesome, because I mean, we pretty much everybody over there who GigX is going to rage out on and be shitty to, at that point, like, Test is at least standing up for themselves and not putting up with whatever crap he's vomiting forth. Yeah, these guys are just self-serving pieces of shit, basically.
Yeah, here's one thing that gets me is GigX. I don't know if he's being smooth on Reddit by accident, because this doesn't seem like him, but you immediately following your announcement to reset them, he goes, okay, I'm making this announcement, nobody touches Esoteria, nobody goes and hacks it, nobody hunts there, nobody AFK cloaks there. Was he just trying to make him like himself appear, oh, we're the victim in all this, our allies are betraying us? Was he just trying to play the victim card, or was that an accident on his part to look that way? Because there's hold on, let me get the link for you.
I think it's just a good play. It creates a situation where it's harder to, GigX has a tendency to do rash things. You tell him something he doesn't like, and he's like, I would invade their space and fucking fuck all their stations, and then lose 2 fleets and go, I never said that. But like, in this situation, I mean, it's a good play. It creates a situation where it makes it less likely we will come for them, I guess. So, I think it's a solid move.
We have our first commissar, guys. Jeb Ogre said something about, Shitani, you are the authority on self-serving pieces of shit. So hopefully we have some angry CO2 people that...
That's okay. I've been timing people out all chat.
I get to draw some commissars here. It's awesome.
One of the best things out of this too is it feels like, and maybe GigX didn't expect this, but it feels like GigX was like in his own mind, and I'm speaking for him because he's not on here. He's going, okay, if I invade FCON, of course Tess is going to defend me, because fuck FCON, right? They killed FCON in the north during the Great War, the last big war that happened. So obviously they're going to come help me, right? Oh, wait, they're not helping me. Oh, fuck. I need to figure out how I'm going to make myself look.
A curious point is, like, if you look back, like, 3 days before I left here in June, I think it was June 1st, we had that capital battle with, our supers and stuff.
Yeah.
FCON had Reds on the field with us, and CO2 didn't. Think about that.
Ooh. That is interesting. Not surprising,
little
though.
Things.
Not surprising, actually, at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's CO2 guys.
See, this is a conundrum for me personally. Like,
yeah, I think we ended up actually killing like 4 FCON Dreads accidentally, but like, FCON Dreads were there.
Details.
That's okay.
CO2 Dread first.
Look, if FCON dies, it's a good thing. See, I don't know. This war is confusing because there's so many ways it could go, right? Like, all the North could say, okay, let's join with CO2 and see what happens. And then days later, Death could be like, okay, money, pocketbook. Let's start buying people. So I'm interested to see where this goes, because on one end, you have the Reddit group. I like to read Reddit to see what people are saying, because that's usually where people tend to be a little too loudmouthed. And a lot of the people feel like it's X-Death at the top and all his little underlings versus Tri-CO2. And then wherever everyone else jumps in, they're either a X-Death pet, so like what happened with FCON joining X-Death recently, and now they're saying this about Test, or they are traitorous people like CO2 and Tri usually are. So I'm interested to see how this plays out, because again, this war just started like a week ago, right? This just kicked off. Like, this just happened, where GigX says, I'm going to burn them. The best quote I have out of that, I linked it here a minute ago. GigX...
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I do need to correct something I just said.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I made the comment that CO2 wasn't there. That is correct. CO2 showed up late, let's say. Okay, so just I will make sure that I don't spout a miscorrection. CO2 was there, just an hour into the fucking fight. Okay, so I have not
I feel like that that DRF might be willing to back out of this really quickly. The reason I ask is because it seems like it's in their best interest not to upset the apple cart, right? Like that's apparently what they were concerned about in MTO. The deal they made with Pro God was that you couldn't take any soft. They just don't want the status quo being upset. And if they start feeling like, oh, this could spiral into a really big war, is it something that they start backing out of sooner rather than later?
I don't see that.
You don't?
No, I don't see that because
I
look
don't
at
think
Stain
you
War.
quite understand the Russian mentality in Eve, Asher.
All right, fair enough.
Because look at what happened with Stain, right? So Russians, from my experience the last 10 years, they do one of two things. They either fight each other with fire and hatred, or they band together to fight the person that poked at them. And in this case, GigX poked FCon, and FCon just recently joined DRF, so he's essentially part of that group now. So as soon as they poked them, it's like, okay, all the Russian bros, let's go down south and fuck CO2. And they'll keep fucking CO2 until one of two things happen. FCon dies, and then they have no reason to participate anymore, and then they'll kind of work their way out of it. Or CO2 dies, right? That's how I see this going with the DRF. What happens in between all of that? Who the fuck knows? Like, I don't know, maybe Mittens can tell me this, but even then, it's like, whoa. Mittens? What do you think?
I was just sort of looking around for information over on this. I mean, one of the things that somebody had said earlier is like Tri being traitorous, and I was looking for evidence. I don't think it's fair to lump Tri in with CO2 on this. Like, Tri has.
No,
I don't
keep to their.
I don't think that Tri are traitors. Like, I don't think that they've turned on
Tri.
people.
Okay, maybe not traitors. Maybe a sharp word.
I think Tri sign hard deals is partly why they don't break them. Which is,
that's where I was going. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like not full on traitors like what CO2 would do, but Tri is known for nobody is blue, but everybody's blue, right? So they'll literally work with whoever's winning, just to make it look like Tri was the great linchpin that kept that big fight to victory, right? They did this with FCon recently, where they were shooting FCon the day earlier, and then show up to help FCon versus space violence, right? They do that quite frequently. But some quotes here out of GigX to kind of wrap up the talk about the Southern War. GigX says, I don't have agreement with FCon or Solar, so I want to burn them. I don't really give a shit what happens here. FCon is going to die, and they will be evicted, and I'm going to burn them, and even if that costs me my entire alliance. So I'm interested to see where that goes from a GigX quote. I'm wondering if he's going to stick to it or not.
Let me just throw this out there. Anytime someone from another alliance is complimenting you on being brave or ballsy, courageous, it's not a compliment.
What do you mean by that?
That's what everyone's doing for GigX right now. Everyone's sucking GigX off about how great he is.
That's because
how brave he is.
Oh my god!
It's not a compliment.
Remember after FC1, where GigX was the greatest Super Cap FC the game had ever known, with the biggest brass balls that everyone should be copying?
He was feeding his Titans, and everyone was telling him how brave he was.
I just got a whisper from a pretty chill dude in Discord here. He says, GigX attacks Solar first. This will be a long war that will not be ending anytime soon.
I have the perfect video clip for a courageous decision, which comes from one of my favorite old TV shows called Yes, Prime Minister, where Sir Humphrey Appleby is explaining that whenever somebody says something is brave or, God forbid, courageous, courage is basically just run for the hills. When people are saying, to a politician or to a fleet commander or to anything that's very brave, that's very courageous, they're telling you that you're going out on a limb and they're trying to either get you to jump off the cliff or warn you that you're doing something that's just really fucking stupid.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come. Like, the Northern War was, it wasn't as enjoyable as I thought it would be. But this Southern thing, or Eastern thing, whatever you want to call it, it's looking kind of spicy, and I'm excited.
I had fun in the Northern War. Now, I think it's kind of in the sense of like a preseason game. Like when you're watching like preseason football, right? The coaches aren't putting out like they're not running their
best and brightest.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that they're running different things to get a feel for, will this play work? Will this formation work? Do these guys work well together? And the end goal is there's lots of teams that go 4-0 in the preseason and then don't really do well in the regular season because they were playing to win the preseason, and then the Patriots, who usually do very well, often lose every preseason game because they're out looking for the data. So that's the sense, and that's something that probably appeals to me more than maybe other people. That was really useful to us because I have a lot of a lot of the data on what I wanted to know and what I wanted to learn.
So Asher, you would be Tom Brady's backup, and Jay Mason is Tom Brady in this situation then?
I was actually comparing myself to Belichick, but I don't know why I would do that.
Billy and I are basically sitting over here cringing through this.
I love the analogy because he's right. Like and the problem is,
do you really think even like Asher's at like Colin Kaepernick level right now? Like,
wow. But where I see this as being a valid point, though, and I think Asher's right here, is you look at Horde, and Graf, of course, got really angry about this, but in the Horde fights, every strategic op that Horde ran against us North, they sent in the PLA team FCs to FC Horde. Right? They didn't let any of their players do it.
The thing is, it was clearly to everyone involved, no matter what they say, it was clearly not a serious war. And if you can't trust your FCs in a non-serious war, if you're a Horde FC, that's got to be so demoralizing because you're like,
right.
Well, in this war that didn't really matter, that had no stakes, they wouldn't trust me. That means when it gets really serious, they're definitely not going to let me do anything.
Right.
Well, no. Now, the people like Goblins and PLFCs do not lie to Horde. It is absolutely the truth that the reason why the Imperium undeployed was Goblins posted that they were going to send people to Dell for 4 days, and an hour later, we had to uproot everything and move. I mean, they always treat their line members with respect and tell them the straight dope.
Yeah, so, that's a lot. We talked for a long time about this, so we're going to jump into Nullsec Power. There's a few things that went on that I think are of note to talk about this week, and so we're going to go into that right now. Okay, and the first thing we jump into is it finalized on
perfect segue from A teams and B teams, going from A teams and B teams with PLFCs to B teams in the Alliance tournament.
Yeah, I forgot before we move on, the guy I mentioned earlier that was giving me the information about how DRF will approach this, Asher, is their head diplomat from DRF, Jay Marcinian, and he says the Russians plan on never stopping the invasion of CO2. So.
Is that guy officially the head diplomat now, or is he just saying that?
Well, he says I am the DRF Diplo, and that's where the information is coming from. So I don't know.
The DRF Diplo, not the head DRF.
Well, I mean,
Diplo.
he's not
Diplo in FCON.
Wait, really? I thought he was like the head DRF. Oh wow, wow. Oh dear, that just made me look. Wow. Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
See, I got to stop reading this stuff.
Anyway, Mr. J is the head diplo, or at least their head diplo for the U.S. time zone.
Oh, okay. So he is. Okay, good. So I wasn't wrong. Ha! But I was close. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of A teams and B teams and so on, Alliance term ended Sunday, and PL Team 2, or their B team, beat PL Team 3, their C team, to win the AT 15. Laserhawks, the only one that wasn't a part of PL NC Dot, finished third, and then NC Dot finished fourth. The prizes were 100 billion ISK Galente Recon and Bombers. NC Dot got fourth, and in a very hilarious fashion, they couldn't lock a single thing. They were
how frustrating must that have been?
Oh fuck! Especially
Asher. Asher, what do you think? You're the designated, and Billy also. Both of you guys are like tourney types. Let's start with Asher. What did you think about how the AT went down at the end?
It was pretty interesting. It was all drones the first couple weeks, and then people kind of adapted to it. I kind of like ECM comps are weird to watch, but they're fun because they can either break or work really well or just fail really bad. There's all this thing about was there collusion between the top two, Hydra and Vidra, and they did do like all-in matches for the last two, like with no Logi. So they were exciting matches. I wonder. It does make you wonder that if you were trying to win this tournament that's worth a lot of money, would you go all in comps like 2 or 3 matches in a row?
Well,
it adds a little fuel to that fire. I have no idea.
An interesting thing about that though is those were the comps that were winning big matches. I mean, those high battle cruiser only type setups of the Vexor were just crushing teams.
No, yeah, it wasn't like that was a legitimate comp. Like it wasn't like they were just coming out with some random crap.
Yeah. But
it's
look
a dangerous
at this, though,
one.
A lot of people say, okay, they're not PL. Well, when you look at the active roster of both teams, 3 of the 10, I guess it was 10 or 11, of the final matches are all PL 6 months ago. CCP has a tournament policy where if you want to be part of a different team, you have to be in that alliance for so long. So Hydra only ever comes out of the woodwork when the alliance tournament's going on. And Vidra is, of course, a new addition. They made another alliance because in the case of PL, they have a lot of talent. And it's hard to get all that same talent on the same team. So they spread them out. And it's legal. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. So by calling them B team and C team, you'll see in a couple months when they all go back into PL, that's where they end up. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's really cool that it just kind of shows you that if you have so many people that are good at one thing, it's best to spread them out,
Let's bring Villian on this, because I mean Villy has led Alliance tournament teams in the past. What was your take on the action this go round?
My take on the action. I didn't get to watch all that much of the Alliance tournament, to be honest. But what I saw it was the rules made for a decent tournament style, and the matches were somewhat entertaining. Obviously, you have Vidra and PL in the same groups near the top because they can put together teams of good pilots who know what they're doing and they're practiced and they put in the time, obviously. It was a decent tournament.
Brave made it to the top 8.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's if you put in the time and the effort, you can do really well. And that's a good sign. The matches weren't entirely decided by who could afford Cambions and Malices, etc. And that's at least a good move towards future tournaments.
The quality of the teams this year was like really high. They were way better than when you watch it 2 or 3 years ago, and you see some team that basically just were some friends who had one idea and basically hadn't practiced. And so many teams this year were practicing months and months before, and there were really a lot of high quality teams. So it was definitely it's definitely like it's a lot harder than it was in previous years, just to even win a couple matches. Our team, the Goonswarm team, won 1 match, and we probably put I don't have like a timer, but I would guess maybe 200 or 300 hours of practicing. So it's a lot of effort. It was really fun to do, but it's definitely a lot of effort to even get into the to the bottom floor.
Yeah. That I don't know.
Well, I mean, we're seeing Rain, who is one of the commentators on the Alliance tournament, is pointing out some criticism and disagreeing about, I believe, the Vidra team being a PL1. But all the Hydra team beyond Blue and Casper are all ex-Warlord / Camel / previous Hydra affiliated.
Yeah, the interesting...
I have to ask other people about this stuff because, sort of like Villy, I just spaced after the last tournament. So.
Yeah, so we'll move on real quick to something hilarious that happened, I believe, yesterday before, and a bit of a master bit of baiting. The great Jay Amazingness. He parked the carrier on an Astra House, and apparently Stuffbox went to drop something on him through Titan Bridge, but the Titan jumped instead of bridging. And said, "Oh shit, I bounced. Oh shit, here comes Snuffbox. Oh shit, let's Doomsday. Oh shit, I'm dead." There's actually a really great video of it. Thanks, Jay, for your comment.
It was Shadow Carrier. It was a Shadow Cartel.
Yeah.
I'll link the link.
There's a great video. I think Jay posted. Jay, he attacked like a Stabber fleet issue, and then the Sino goes up, and all of a sudden Erebus. And since the Sino was so close to the Astra House, the Erebus bounced straight up, and then like all of stuff appears, and then you see a Doomsday. It's like that fleeting Doomsday in the hopes that Jay dies, so that at least he gets a kill mill. But then Jay still lived. And then
I don't know. I watched that video, and when the Titan jumps in, like he's well within tether range. I think he attempted to lock something, or I don't know what he did, but it looked entirely like he should have been able to just safe log right away. I don't know what.
Yeah,
mistake
I
he
don't.
made.
I think it's
Did the
because
Titans have tether rates?
no.
I thought it,
Well, he bounced. He started bouncing, but if he had safe logged
He
instantly,
was within tether range that whole time he died.
I
Yeah.
didn't think he had tether rates. I could be wrong though.
Oh, no,
Well,
that's
Jay,
right. It's
Jay
our
is,
Citadel.
Jay is in chat, and we've got some stuff guys here too who might be able to correct the record and tell us how exactly that went down. If he was tethered or wasn't.
Yeah, he couldn't tether because it was our Citadel.
It wasn't. It wasn't. It was on a goon Citadel. Oh my god.
Yeah, so he couldn't tether. That's why. Yeah, so Jay was sitting in the. What happened was it was during move ops, and Jay just left like one of his characters sitting there in a Thanatos and starts shooting it. The video's great to watch if you want to watch that. So of course I did the masturbating joke because Jay, and I thought it was funny. But it was just surprising that Erebus showed up. You'd think like maybe send a couple of battleships because you can kill.
Well, that was clearly an oops on their part.
Yeah, it was wonderful though.
Well
It was
played
hilarious.
To Jay and to Snuffbox for doing that.
And then we're running out of time here, but of course the Butcher Bill that is super carriers, death to all super carriers, has expanded this week. 36 dead super carriers and 4 dead titans in the span of a week. August is close to the bloodiest month in history of EVE Online for super carrier losses. Goons making up half of those. We are close to 50 super carrier losses in the last month, 30 days.
Goons are dumb.
Yep. So I think that's great. So if you want to go see that for yourself, you can go click this link. And then the last bit of news that I think is it's pretty big news is EVE News 24 writer Seraph, I don't know how to say his full name, was recently fired from EVE News 24 for attacking an INN staff member. Apparently he posted real-life information, email addresses, full names, stuff like that. And they immediately caught it, removed it, and then removed him. So there's a bunch of information on that, official statements from EVE News 24. Their editor-in-chief's doing a good job trying to fix that. But from Mittens, I don't know how you feel about this, but it feels like there were 3 major news teams during the last war. You had INN, you had Niden's group.
Crossing Zebras.
Crossing Zebras, and then EVE News 24. You haven't seen the other 2 in like the last 6 months or so. You just haven't really heard from them.
Well, Seraph was one of the. I mean, I think that Johan's trying to do a very good job over at EVE News 24. And I don't want to say that he's being brave or courageous based on what we were talking about earlier. I think one of the features that we're looking at adding to INN is, I think it's good to beat the competition, and it's cool that like INN is like won the media wars. But we were talking about this on the Fireside Chat earlier, and we'll run a couple minutes over for me to just throw this out there and see if people are interested in it. One of the features we're interested in adding to INN, it'll probably take us a couple months to develop, is to create like teams and basically like a multi-site thing where basically people can use a lot of the assets that we already have created on INN. And like, so like you could have like test.imperium.news or maybe a different domain. But basically the idea is, we could give Villy admin rights for a section of the site, and then it'd have all of the normal functionalities of WordPress, all the stock image library that the main creative team has done. And so basically people can hopefully spin up their own versions of INN using what we've created. So if there's people who are interested in spinning up EVE News, but they don't want to like have a website and set up all this crap and have servers and server costs and all these things, and they don't want to have to worry about me bossing them around, we're sort of looking into a way I would prefer to see, even though I don't like Riverini and I don't like EVE News 24, and Crossing Zebras was shitting on us, I think it's, a lot of people want to write about EVE. They don't necessarily want to write for INN, and I think it would be good for us to leverage the platform if we have won the media war, so people can get their stories told. Because there's just not room on the main front page. Like let's say that like Signal Cartel or whatever wants to put news up, but we don't want to run a whole bunch of Signal Cartel news on the front page of INN. But if there's like their own version of the site, then if something gets lots of hits and go to the main page, well, this is basically what we're looking at.
Think of it like a blog that
it's like fucking Huffington Post but for space.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, and that blog post eventually makes it to the main INN page,
or like
because a lot of people look at it. Yeah, and then so we're kind of out of time here on this show. But one more thing before we go, and I don't know how Zavili feel about this, but Asher, who's winning tonight?
I want McGregor to win, but Mayweather is going to win. I bet money on Mayweather so that I have a solve either way.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I would be really surprised if McGregor wins. I mean, it's possible that McGregor will sort of win a fight by beating the shit out of Mayweather, but the guy's never boxed before. The entire thing is ridiculous. Like, here's a guy who is literally never done any kind of professional boxing, and it's a great business decision. I think that the fight itself is going to be disappointing for everybody except for the people who are pocketing money on it.
Here's what I see, and I have a conspiracy theory on this because I just see it going this way. Mayweather stands to make a lot of money on this fight. I see Mayweather betting against himself, fighting the good fight, and then losing in a decision, and then making even insanely more money. Because right now, the betting has, like, him winning guaranteed, 100%. So if he bets against himself and then loses, yeah, he might get kicked out of boxing maybe, but... the money.
Yeah, that's criminal fraud, and he can't do that.
If he loses, the second fight would be bigger.
Mayweather, he's an egotistical kind of fellow.
Yeah, his ego wouldn't allow him to do that. He's already got shitloads of money. He doesn't need to take a fall. Like,
well, he didn't pay his taxes in 2015, so that may not be true anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, about that. Would you,
all right,
let me ask you,
girls.
would you be able to spend $30 million in cash on your tax bill if you got one instantly? Like,
this isn't going to be
anyway,
too much more boxing chat, but it is going to be curious to see how it goes down tonight. Either way, there's going to be a lot of people that are mad, which is pretty cool from an EVE player's perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching it. There's a place hosting it, so that'll be pretty cool. I'm excited.
All right, guys. Well, also, let's give some shout-outs before we go. We have Malthorus for 5 months. IV Dystopia, just subscribed with Twitch Prime. Hopefully nobody else that we missed.
I believe that was it, yep.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, guys, and thanks to Villy for being our guest and, entering our spin zone. I guess we're all spin masters now. And Asher Alliance, the 24th best FC in the Imperium. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you all next week. Enjoy the fight, guys.
Yep. See you.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.